a muted version of mania, where instead of, being super manic and really truly not myself for like a whole week at a time or whatever, it's more of like I might have an episode where it's really difficult for me to go to sleep for like 3 days straight, and I kind of am on this euphoric high of I can accomplish so many things, which is similar to the I can conquer the world of mania, but it's not that, right? It's I can conquer my world. But even that is a little bit distorted, especially when I get into the whole like, I'm not tired right now. I don't have to go to bed right now because I'm not tired. No, like, if it's coming to that time where I should probably go to sleep, I should probably start trying to wind myself down. Hello, and welcome back to Embodying Mystical Mac. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining. If you're coming back, thank you so much for coming back. This is the first episode in a little while, and it is a personal one. Because I didn't feel like it was conducive to me and the kind of content creator that I want to be to just post the Wheel of Time video when this video that I'm about to do here, video/episode, has been on the list of to-dos since the new year. Can you guess what we're doing today? Yes, we're finally talking about the 2021 reflections. I finally have come to a place where I feel like I can talk about the things that I learned in a way that reflects who I want to be going forward, the person that I'm working towards, the person that I am sometimes and then sometimes can only dream of being, if you know what I mean. First of all, a few housekeeping things. The Wheel of Time video is coming. That is actually already planned in my notebook and just needs to be recorded. But as I mentioned, I wanted to do this one first because it's been on the list, and it's really important considering that, sure, I'm here to talk about shows and movies and things that I find I'd like to talk about, but I'm also here to share my experience of being human. And the lessons that I learned, or rather the lessons that I got further along in learning and integrating last year, are really, really important lessons for me to share. Some info about what's been going on with me. If you've been looking at my community posts, on occasion I will give you updates regarding the videos, and oftentimes if I haven't posted in a while, it's because my mental health has been in a place where it's really difficult to record. It's kind of been the journey of my life the last, I don't even know, 3 to 4 years, figuring out this content creator thing, how to do it, how to work with my body's energy. We'll get into all that. I've been going through a major adjustment. I started a full-time job, and though I appreciate the job itself, the hours are really, really difficult for me. It's a 40-hour, it's not even like full-time, like 35 hours. It's a 40-hour a week job, and I'm actually there for 45 hours a week. It's just that, I get my hour lunch break, so I don't get paid for that time, but I'm there. So the hours have been really difficult for me to adjust to, which has contributed to my not being super capable of recording. I just haven't had energy. I've really been running on like survival. Not only that, Are the hours rough and a huge adjustment? This is the least I've gotten paid per hour in a long time. And I am actually working on changing that, though I don't know how much I will be able to change that at the place that I'm at right now. But I'm putting things in place. In fact, one of the things that I'm putting in place is I'm getting some certifications that allow me to hopefully renegotiate my pay. This has also contributed to my difficulty in recording because I am essentially taking 4 crash courses that involve a fuck ton of homework and then 15 Zoom hours over the weekend. Zoom hours, like I have to be in a Zoom meeting, present, participating, all that. And then 30 hours or so of homework the week prior to the weekend where the Zoom classes are occurring. This is on top of my 45 hours a week where I am somewhere else working, right? I'm a very resilient person. I'm a very strong person. But when it comes to energy sustainability, that is just not me. I am not your Energizer Bunny. In fact, I'm really dealing with the brunt of my choices and yet having to be really compassionate with myself, knowing that I needed this job and I am glad that I ended up in it. I think it's the right move. However, I'm very aware that I am not going to last on the 40-hour work week schedule for a very long time. Can't necessarily say definitively how long I can't last, but let's just say that once I'm done with this course and I come to a place where I feel comfortable looking to renegotiate, I am going to see where that takes me, and if I have a sense that I'm not going to be paid my value there, that my value is not going to be matched by what they pay me there, then I'll go and I will find another situation that works better, and I will actually take my time in doing so because I didn't get a chance to do that with this situation, and yeah, it wasn't really my choice that I didn't get to take my time. I'm realizing I still have some feelings around that. But yeah, that's something that's been going on with me. I'm learning my limits and my abilities, and I'm learning to honor myself, which is actually a really, really good segue into the rest of the video, but also into the next bit of housekeeping, which is the plans that I have for my channel. Keep in mind, when I state these plans, they are not like a schedule. They are not anything that I have set in stone. They are just things that I am planning to do with my channel. And I will do them as my energy, as time allows, right? So first of all, the astrology episodes with Adir will continue, and
of the beauty community, and I think that almost had a trickle-down effect for people who...
I don't like that. I don't like that YouTube on my TV. Complete side note. I don't like that YouTube on my TV, when I pause it, it decides that it's okay to just start playing itself after, I don't even know how many minutes. That was what that was. If you're listening on the podcast and was like, what just happened? Yeah. So the astrology episodes will continue with Adir, and I will have a playlist of all of those at some point, so you can just seek those out, because I know that they're a little bit different from the other stuff that I do. I am going to have commentary videos, of course, kids movies, shows, kids shows, as well as good old regular adult shows and films that impact me. I am open to suggestions. Best way to send them to me is probably via YouTube comment or Instagram DM. I probably will not see it in a very timely fashion. However, it will get to me. So IG DMs or YouTube comments if you have any suggestions for commentary, videos, kids shows, kids movies, shows and movies that tickle your fancy as an adult. Yeah. Of course, be mindful. I will look at the suggestions, but if there are things that are just not my jam, things that I know that I won't be passionate about, then I just won't go for those things, because part of honoring myself, honoring this channel, is doing the things that I am interested in, right? More Wheel of Time content. I do plan on more Wheel of Time content. The next one coming up in the very near future, if it hasn't come out already by the time this video is posted, is my Memory of Light rant. I have finished Memory of Light. I've finished it twice over, and I am ready to talk about it. So I have all my notes ready, as I mentioned previously in this video episode already. But not only that, I would like to do some breakdowns and rants, not necessarily like super detailed breakdowns, but more like breakdowns / rants on the characters, on maybe each individual book in the series, and then definitely on some of the world and culture of Wheel of Time, because that aspect of it is just so incredibly rich. I mean, I could do an entire video series probably on like White Tower politics, right? Again, suggestions for that are completely welcome. Instagram, DMs, YouTube, comments, holler at me. Something new I would like to bring on to the channel is reactions. I am actually a really robust reactor. In fact, it's kind of a joke with my partner and I'm like the perfect stand-up comedy test audience, or like shooting video live audience, because I will laugh and basically react exactly as the comedian likely intends me to. And I want to bring that to my channel, because I legitimately entertain myself sometimes when I'm watching shit and I'm reacting. I'm going, oh my God, like, who are you? If there's anybody, like, I live in an apartment building, and when my neighbors are coming home or when I'm coming home, I'm sure that they can hear me and I can hear them. And it's like, if someone's coming home right now and trying to open their door right across the hall from my door, and they're listening to me react, it's usually pretty comical. So I want to bring that to you guys. I'm thinking reactions to movies, shows, and trailers of pertinent movies and shows coming up. This, of course, is stuff that I've never seen before, but I also want to incorporate some rewatches of some of my favorite shows and movies that I haven't seen in a long time. I love rewatching things. I don't know what it is about it. I'm sure it has something to do with a sense of safety. There's nothing new to be thrown at me if I'm rewatching something. I'm not going to have an emotional curveball to deal with. Like, I love the anime genre, absolutely love it. But I have a difficult time watching new anime, to the point where I really haven't watched new anime for a long time. Probably like 2-3 years since I first watched 7 Deadly Sins. And even then, my time perception might be a little off. It might be a little longer. But I have a hard time watching new anime because anime tends to be really intense. So the subject matter tends to be really intense. The character arcs tend to be really intense. The situations tend to be really intense. And of course, the emotions just tend to be really intense, because who do anime shows usually surround? Teenagers, right? Yeah. And if they're adults, they're like broody ass adults. So I have a really difficult time watching new anime, but I have obviously like animes that I've loved forever and want to rewatch. Inuyasha is actually one that comes to mind. It's probably the one that I'm going to do the first anime rewatch of. And so, yeah, suggestions for those things are welcome as well. Again, though, and I feel like I want to disclaim this, just keep in mind that I will only go towards the things that really tickle my fancy and that I'm really interested in, especially for the reaction stuff, if it's not a rewatch, because I'm coming to it raw, I'm coming to it unprepared, and much like in my non-content creating life, right, when I'm not doing things for my content, like watching something to talk about on my content, yada yada, I'm keenly aware of these hypersensitivities that I have. And so if I'm not in the best place to pick up an anime like Death Note or, Erased, both two that I really want to get into when the timing is right. I'm not going to go for that. It doesn't mean that your suggestion isn't great. It doesn't mean that I probably, that I'll never touch it or anything like that. Just, I would love your suggestions, but keep in mind as well, or rather, I would love your suggestions and keep in mind that I am very committed to only picking up on the suggestions and things that I really, truly want to talk about and is compatible for me at the time. Mental health wise, emotional wise, all of that. Right? For example, this is a bad one because I've watched it and it hasn't been long enough for me to say do a rewatch video on it. But say if someone wanted to go and watch Haunting of Hill House, if I'm in a time of my life like I am right now where I have this whole new paradigm shift that I'm dealing with, regarding my hours of labor. Not only that, I've got a ton of financial stress on me right now because of working so many hours and feeling like I am not getting paid enough to live my life in a way where I'm not almost constantly worrying about my financial needs and situation, right? A time of great stress is not a good time for Mac to go and check out something that's gonna scare the shit out of me, make me feel like there's somebody watching me when nobody's there, like all that junk that we know and love that horror films do to us and horror shows do to us. Like literally just thinking of the bent neck lady makes me look in the mirror that's in this corner to just make sure she's not back there. That is the kind of imagination that I'm dealing with, and why I feel an energy in here that is not, it's new. Get out, please leave. Invoking in my guides in moments like this, man. But so that's my thing. It's like I'm a very hypersensitive person. I've gone on about this long enough. Your suggestions are always welcome. Please don't take it personally if I don't go towards them. It has so many things to do with me that have absolutely nothing to do with you and your taste in movies and shows and anime. So yeah, that's actually really something I'm really excited about. This reactions. Because I've been wanting to expand my channel in ways that make sense. I know I have expanded it. I went from doing these more self-therapy episodes on a podcast solely to bringing that podcast onto YouTube. And now I do videos / episodes. And not only that, I've expanded by bringing a deer into the mix, which, by the way, our new moon video is probably going to be just a little bit delayed. It is actually the new moon when I'm recording right now. And he's got some stuff going on in his life, so I don't know when we're going to be recording it. So just for those of you that are looking out for that. going back to what I was saying, it did expand with a deer in the astrology episodes, and I've expanded further by doing more of these commentary videos that I've been doing, and I just want to continue that expansion because at the end of the day, I'm a very difficult to pin down person when it comes to the things that I love to do and the things that I want to do on a given day, and talk and record myself talking as a means of sharing it with a community is something that I'm really passionate about. And there are so many different ways that I can do that. And I myself really enjoy watching reaction videos of people that are like me, that are like kind of grandiose reactors by nature. And I really think you guys will be entertained by it. So, woohoo about that. Next, of course, these personal videos and catch-ups will continue, though I am going to continue to make them more occasional, like they've been, because I do want to grow my audience, and I do want to create a good amount of content that a lot of people can connect with, and that we can at least get talking about something that a lot of us are into, be it a movie or a show. Those being, the main things that are going to bring hopefully new audiences to my channel and are going to interest those of you that are here, that have been here, that aren't just here for me, or maybe aren't here for me at all. Maybe you found me because of my Wheel of Time commentary, my Turning Red commentary, and maybe you're here for those things. I want to cater to that. But for those of you that are here to find out what is actually going on with my life, how I'm actually doing, that is still a very real part of my channel, because I am not a let me compartmentalize everything kind of person. I'm a let me integrate as much as I possibly can kind of person. So these personal videos and catch-ups will continue, especially in the format that I'm doing right now, where maybe it's been a lag, I haven't posted in a while, and there's been a personal video coming, like I've been mentioning probably for the last 4 or 5 videos that I've shot. That may be an exaggeration, but it also may not be. That this 2021 reflections video is coming. It's coming, right? And that combination of having a reflection video, or rather a self-reflective video, an episode that I really want to do, and then not having posted in a while, that is usually a perfect storm to create an episode/video like I'm creating today. And then if you want to just keep up with me a little bit in a closer fashion, my IG is open, of course. Go follow me on Instagram for life updates and posts and stories where I post hot takes that I may not necessarily create YouTube videos around. My art and poetry and hobbies like my silks class often end up on my Instagram as well. I'm going to try to be better at posting reels. I was a little skeptical because I was earning bonuses and they hadn't paid me yet. So basically, as soon as I got my first payment, I believed. And so I would like to basically embellish my Instagram a little bit more with reels, be them of creating artwork or my silks class. I really like to post reels of my silks class. It's good for me to see my progress, and it's just a really fun, cool thing that not a lot of people do. Probably more people nowadays than ever before, but still not a lot of people do. So if you want to keep up with all that good stuff, just go on over to my Instagram and follow me. Lastly, but certainly not least, the new idea that I have not mentioned yet for sure for my channel is I want to start doing poetry shorts. I've been contemplating with this idea of doing shorts on YouTube, and I didn't want to do this thing where I just recycle my reels from Instagram because I don't have a judgment for people who do that. A lot of people, or not a lot, but there are quite a few people on YouTube that all I do is watch their shorts. I don't think I've ever actually seen a YouTube format video of them. And I know that they're pulling those things from TikTok. So I have no judgment when people cross-post across different platforms. You know, they post a TikTok and then they post that TikTok to their Instagram Reels and they post that to their YouTube Shorts. However, for my own content and for my YouTube content, I've really been wanting to keep my Instagram Reels on Instagram and then create something different for YouTube. And I think I finally came up with the idea, and it's poetry shorts. For those of you who don't know, I do have a poetry blog, and you can find it by going to my website, mysticalmac.com. And though I don't write in it regularly, I did for a long enough time that I have quite a bit of poems to read from and pick from when it comes to my poetry blog. So I'm going to explore this idea of occasionally doing a YouTube short where I just sit down, get real, and read one of my poems to you. I've always thought it was really valuable to... I've always been a lover of poetry, and one of the most valuable things to me has been to be able to hear a poem in the poet's own words, or rather in the poet's own voice. Not even just poems, like how fun is it when someone writes a book and then they narrate it themselves for the audiobook, you know? Those kinds of things. I've always found that to be really cool, and as a writer, I want to share my writing with you. That is the end of our incredibly long list of housekeeping. Holy crap, shit. Yeah, if any of that, some of that, all of that sounds interesting to you, if you like to hear me talk, if you like to look at me talk, if you're here and interested in any way, shape, or form, please subscribe and click the bell so that you know when I post. And let's get on to the crux of this video, which is probably going to end up being like less time than my housekeeping intro was, but let's go. 2021 reflections. I was able to sum up my year of lessons, that was 2021, under this giant theme that I've actually already mentioned on this video: honoring myself. So what does this mean, right? Observing myself, observing my energy levels and sustainability of said energy levels, observing my moods, my long-term moods, and looking at long-term mood management. For those of you who don't know, I have a mood disorder that I deal with. It's called cyclothymia. And it's essentially like bipolar 2's little brother or sister. Correct me if I'm wrong. Bipolar 2 is the one where there are both manic and depressive episodes. I believe bipolar 1 is where there's just one or the other. Again, comments, correct me if I'm wrong. However, whichever one it is where there's both depression and mania, it's the little sister of that bipolar disorder, where I don't experience mania and depression as much as I experience hypomania and dysthymia. That's not to say I can never get depressed or experience a manic episode, but I'm not going to experience them like a person that has bipolar 2. Cyclothymia left untreated, however, can develop into full-on bipolar disorder. So it's not to say that if I hadn't figured out that this is something that I deal with, I wouldn't end up there. So what is hypomania? What's dysthymia? Hypomania, if those of you who know your roots, your word roots, hypo meaning a muted version, right? Hyper is exaggerated, hypo is muted. So a muted version of mania, where instead of, being super manic and really truly not myself for like a whole week at a time or whatever, it's more of like I might have an episode where it's really difficult for me to go to sleep for like 3 days straight, and I kind of am on this euphoric high of I can accomplish so many things, which is similar to the I can conquer the world of mania, but it's not that, right? It's I can conquer my world. But even that is a little bit distorted, especially when I get into the whole like, I'm not tired right now. I don't have to go to bed right now because I'm not tired. No, like if it's coming to that time where I should probably go to sleep, I should probably start trying to wind myself down. It's one thing if the hypomania like really gets in the way of that, I will work with that. But like to buy into the hypomania of being like, I don't need sleep. Yeah, like that's where it gets dangerous for me. And I'm sure for others with cyclothymia, though I can just speak for myself. So that's kind of, learning to ride those hypomanic times without buying into this lie of I'm going to be like this all the time and I'm going to be able to accomplish a lot and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's actually funny. I can tell when I'm slipping out of my dysthymia, which dysthymia is as opposed to depression, which is a very severe thing. It feels very severe. It has a greater weight than something like dysthymia, except for the fact that dysthymia is like a lesser depression that can feel more chronic. And that's the thing, right? I don't always experience hypomania, but for sure, what I mean by that, but I don't always experience it, is it's not like clockwork that I will go hypomania to dysthymia and then to normal, and then hypomania to dysthymia and then to normal. It's more like my hypomanic episodes are I shouldn't say episodes because then I'm implying that like shit hits the fan. My hypomanic seasons are less like clockwork than my dysthymic seasons. And in fact, I feel like I am more likely to experience hypomania once I'm slipping out of dysthymia. And I can usually tell when I'm slipping out of dysthymia because like that'll be the day that I decide to post a giant story on my Instagram where I'm talking about something that I'm passionate about, like I did today. Or like, this is the time for me to talk to everybody on the phone. Like, it's really interesting. But noticing those moods and noticing them long term. So not just going, oh my God, this is a dysthymic time for me, but going, let's prepare for the next one, right? As soon as I'm starting to slip out of this one, not with this mindset of like, oh my God, it'll be no time by the time I'm back in a dysthymic episode, dysthymic season, but rather like, okay, I'm feeling better now. This is awesome. Let's ride this time while it's here. And once we start to slip back into dysthymia again, we'll handle that when we handle that. That's been a really, really big thing for me. And observing those patterns in my mood has been a really key aspect of me getting on some sort of content creation schedule. I say the word schedule very loosely. I guess I should say like regimen. That's synonymous. Content creation lifestyle. There we go. That's probably better. Because it's not so much like getting myself on a rigid schedule, but like creating a lifestyle that supports my content creation in the context of the fact that I'm not this Energizer bunny. And I'm also not a very even-keeled person in the sense of like moods. So I experience highs and lows more often than I experience plateaus. And to learn to work with those highs and then learn to soften the blow of those lows has been a really key piece in figuring out this content creation lifestyle for me. As I was saying, in context with all of this, right? With my mood disorder, with my ADHD, the neurodivergences that I deal with, that make working for myself, especially when I'm not making money off of it or making the kind of money I'd like to be making the kind of money off of it yet. Yeah. Next part of observing myself has been really being keen on observing how I function in my relationships, especially in my romantic relationship. Learning to respond responsibly to my triggers and triggering situations in general, but especially with my partner. I'm very certain that we have a twin flame connection, and even without the twin flame connection, I'm not going to go into detail as to what that is here. If you're curious about what it is, please, there is research out there, but I will not go in depth here or into it at all here. But for those of you who know, even without the twin flame connection, your romantic relationships tend to trigger you the most anyway. When you add the dynamic of the twin flame connection to that kind of gets magnified, the triggers and those situations. And not only, or rather, through learning to respond responsibly, I've had to work on my distress tolerance and on my self-soothing. And that both of those things have been very, very big and challenging for me, and I'm continuously working on them. And observing myself in those situations has been really difficult, but something I've been getting better at. Checking my dysfunctional and toxic behaviors. Some dysfunctional behaviors are just dysfunctional, and it's not great, but it's not toxic. You don't want to keep doing them, but they're not things that are going to be like corrosive weeds, right, in the garden of your relationship. Some things, though, some dysfunctional behaviors done over time consistently do become toxic, though. And checking all of my dysfunctional behaviors, but definitely the toxic ones, that's been a really big part of my growth. Seeing where I'm displaying behaviors that aren't beneficial to my partner or to my relationship and to me. And working on adapting new behaviors. Working with my partner to see my own blind spots. That, also goes hand in hand with seeing the toxic parts of yourself. A blind spot is not a blind spot because it's easy to see. In fact, your brain is going to block out this thing that is really corrosive or dysfunctional or whatever that you do, especially if you have like a being good complex. If you really just one of those people that really just wants to be good, it'll be a lot easier to develop blind spots around areas where you're not good, where maybe you're hurting situations as opposed to helping them, or you yourself, if you were to perceive those behaviors enacted by other people, you would think them bad people. those are situations, that's a scenario where it makes sense that your brain is blocking you from being able to see that part of yourself, because it's a huge blow to your self-concept, to your ego that wants to be good, that wants to be helpful, to be like, shit, I'm displaying this very not helpful, very dysfunctional, even toxic behavior. Working with my partner to being able to see those things, that is key. Working with my partner. They're blind spots because I have a hard time seeing them on my own, right? So I need someone that's trusted, has my best interest at heart, to help point them out. I've also been learning to feel safe in my familial relationships as I've been healing generational trauma, and that's been really rewarding. And I've also been, so that's the whole observing myself. Next, under this umbrella of honoring myself, finding acceptance for the fact that people perceive in accordance to their experiences and worldview, and that affects how they see me or how they don't see me. This is big for me because my whole life I've been trying to see myself much like children see themselves. They see themselves through the eyes of their caregivers until they're capable of seeing themselves on their own. I'm sure due to my traumas and life experience and whatnot, for a long time, my whole life up until probably this last 2 years, I've continuously just tried to see myself through the eyes of the world, forgetting that the first perspective I need to consider above all is my own. So it's very big for me to really work on accepting the fact that, much like myself, and this is something that I actively try to work on, that I try to be conscious of as best as I can. Unless we make a point to take ourselves outside of our own worldview box, and even when we do go through great efforts to do that, we are still mostly capable of only seeing the world through our experiences and worldview. That's true for me, and that's true for everybody else. So when it comes to seeing myself and observing myself to learn about myself, I have to prioritize my own perspective first. I do that by accepting that other people's perspectives are not reliable. And I mean, other people at large. Of course, I have trusted people in my life, my partner being one, that of course I trust his perspective of me. I enlist his help in seeing my own blind spots. I have to trust his perspective if I'm going to do that. But even then, if he ever says something that just doesn't quite sit right, not in the sense of like, ooh, why'd he say that? But just like, it doesn't resonate, And I've gone through it in my head, gone through the processes that I go through when I'm asking myself, is it a blind spot? Like, am I just not wanting to see, etc. When I've gone through those processes and I've come out the other side being like, nope, that just doesn't resonate, even his opinion is not as important as my own when it comes to seeing myself. We're actually almost done here. So my intro is going to be like half the video. This is funny. Next, I've been working on reminding myself that my responsibility is to be and work on being the kind of woman that I want to see more of in the world. Oh, I said woman, human. That I want to see more of in the world. Again, going back to that whole, my perspective has to come first. Am I working on being the kind of person I want to be? Am I succeeding? Am I failing? How am I doing? My metric of that is what's most important, not other people's. And by the way, all the while I'm doing my best to keep in mind that all of this shit that I'm saying applies to other people as well. For example, I can have all the opinions under the sun about somebody or something, and at the end of the day, the opinions of the people that are directly connected to that thing or are that thing are way more important than mine and are going to outweigh mine at the end of the day, every time. So what kind of human do I want to see more of in the world? What kind of human do I want to be? I want to be an honest human. I want to be humbly confident, meaning know my value, know my own strengths, but stay grounded. Stay grounded in the fact that I'm learning and growing just like everybody else, and I'm not perfect, and I'm just one piece of this giant puzzle that are the beings in this universe right now. Awareness of the world around me, and therefore have an awareness of the world around me, and therefore be able to be considerate of others. I strive to do that always. That is the kind of person I would like to be. I would like to be compassionate and inclusive, especially in my communication, especially in the way that I create my content. If there ever is, or rather when there is an episode, video that I'm going to be getting, really aggressively ranty or angry or whatever, I will, of it, any sort of situation where my speaking on it might be divisive, I will do my best to include some sort of trigger warning. Because I want to be compassionate. I want to be inclusive. It's not about tiptoeing around people. For example, there was someone whom I doubt that they're subscriber now, but there was someone who subscribed to my channel a while back, and then they commented asking me not to curse, or no, it was asking me not to say Jesus, or in the proper words, asking me to not use the Lord's name in vain because of their religious beliefs. And I just very politely said that I appreciate them engaging, I appreciate them watching. I'm not going to do that because that wouldn't be authentic to me, and I wouldn't be authentically expressing myself if I were to modify my speech for them and their child, that was the argument, is I want my child to watch your content. It's okay, then it's your job to educate your child that, hey, she says these words, but we don't, and this is why. Right, so it's not this being compassionate, inclusive, giving a trigger warning if I'm posting a video, an episode that I perceive to be divisive. It's not about, let me just cushion around everybody's shit. It's just about being conscious and compassionate in my communication, and giving the people an option to stay for the potentially triggering content, or save it for another day. I want to be, last of all, but not least of all at all, a healthy boundary setter and holder. I want to meet people where they're at, inform them of where I'm at when it applies, and let it go when there's an incompatibility there. just like I am working on letting it go when I realize that a person's perspective about me has everything to do with them and not with me. Remembering that a grand majority of the time, even if there is a perceived personal layer above a situation and another person's feelings towards you, there most definitely is a greater subconscious iceberg under there that has nothing to do with you. And letting it be okay and letting it go when there's an incompatibility in the boundaries, right? And if someone doesn't like the way that I am doing something, then that's okay. They don't have to. If someone isn't able to perceive me in the way that I know myself to be, that's okay. Let it go. There's no need to expend energy on people and things that aren't for you. And that's kind of my I guess, like, if I had to dumb it down beyond honor myself to like a practical piece of advice, it's there will be things, people, places that are for you, experiences. There will be things that aren't. It'll be very clear. And even if it's not at first, it'll be made very clear the things that are for you. And when those signals are given, just run with them. Taking all of this that I've just talked about and applying it to my content creation and business relations. That is my 2021 reflections. This one was a long one. Thank you for sticking with me if you're still here. I'm really excited about the Wheel of Time video coming up, and and just some of the other stuff that I talked about. Thank you for your continued support. If this video resonated with you, or you dig my channel, you dig me, you get a good vibe, please please subscribe, please click the bell so you know when I post next. As you know, I don't have a set schedule. But inevitably there will be a post, there will be a video for you to watch or a podcast episode for you to listen to. And I feel like I'm finding my way. It's kind of cool. Stay mystical, stay grounded. I really, truly appreciate you. So glad you exist. And I will catch you very soon.